Morning. I'm Casey, and this is Keystone Curiosity, where we talk about all things unique to the state of Pennsylvania. Today's episode is about Neversink Mountain.
Located within the city and suburbs of Reading, Neversink Mountain serves as a natural preserve for the people of Berks County.
The original inhabitants of the area were the Lenape tribe, who gave the mountain its name, Neversink, which roughly translates to "at the promontory."
Throughout the early 1700s, the sons of William Penn would gradually acquire the land southeast of the Appalachian Mountains, and by 1748 would found the city of Reading. Over the next 90 years, Neversink's name would be anglicized to what we know it as today, while in the valley below, the Schuylkill River would be expanded upon to build the Schuylkill Canal, used to transport goods to Philadelphia, which included a dam near the base of the mountain. Neversink would otherwise go unmolested until about the 1830s, when construction began on the White House Hotel. This would rest on the Reading side of the mountain on what's today South 9th Street, and would start a trend for the next century on Neversink. Despite a short stint when a section of the south side of the mountain was used as a proving ground for cannons made during the Civil War, Neversink would prominently become the home of resorts focused on the entertainment of locals and tourists alike. This would truly take off in the 1880s when a man named Joseph Ganser constructed an incline railroad to his property on the western crest of Neversink in 1883. The incline was intended to transport construction equipment and materials for the building of the Highland Hotel in the following year, but would also end up taking visitors to and from the station on 13th Street upon the hotel's completion.
The perceived success of the Highland Hotel would end up drawing other businessmen into similar ventures on Neversink within the next few years.
During the 1890s, 4 more resorts would be built upon Neversink Mountain. There was the Neversink Mountain Hotel, which catered specifically to out-of-town tourists, the Centennial Springs Hotel, which would become known for its vineyards, the Dangler's Glen Hotel, which served as more of a bar than an actual hotel, and the Clapperthal Pavilion that was built by the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad. The resorts all held their own unique entertainment features, from large dance halls and wraparound promenades to baseball fields and billiard rooms. They all sought for different ways to draw in customers from as far away as Baltimore and New York City. Access to each of these was easily achieved by the use of the mainline Philadelphia and Reading Railroad, with a transfer at the Clapperthal station and onto the first hydroelectric rail line in Pennsylvania, the Neversink Mountain Railroad. The Mountain Railroad was initially advertised as a scenic trip for explorers and admirers, but as the hotels began developing, the railroad boasted more than 8 miles of tracks to connect each of them together.
And if you're curious about where they would have placed these scenic railroad tracks, look no further than the current trail system. Many of the foundations for the rails are actually still in use to this day.
The Neversink Mountain Railroad would close down for the season in 1917 and never reopen. It had been deemed unprofitable, and the tracks would be torn up and sold for scrap as the demand for steel skyrocketed during World War I. This would have a massive impact on the resorts upon the mountain. Unfortunately for the resort's investors, each of these locations would close, be sold at a loss, or in many cases burned down in fires over the next 50 years, though not without some interesting side quests. The stones for the Clapperthal Pavilion would end up being used to build the roaming house in Rifton in 1903, and the Centennial Springs Hotel would be used as a tuberculosis sanitarium, which helped stem the spread of the incurable disease, as patients voluntarily quarantined themselves in the mountain resort.
Nowadays, anyone looking at Neversink would never consider the fact that there had once been monstrous structures dotting the hillside. And while there are certainly still traces of that past, the prevailing view of a healthy forest is thanks to the efforts of the Berks Nature Organization.
Founded in 1974, Berks Nature has been working to preserve much of the natural beauty of the county. With the first acquisitions being made in 1979, the Neversink Mountain Preserve is the organization's oldest community initiative. While there is still a fair amount of private property on Neversink, as of 2025, Berks Nature has managed to acquire 266 acres of the mountain and lease an additional 256 from Berks County itself. Today, they maintain and care for the property, along with more than a dozen miles of trails for hiking and mountain biking.
If you find the time, I highly suggest checking out one of the following trail sections, as they're some of my personal favorites.
There's the McIlvin Pavilion, or Witch's Hat, on the north side. This hosts a nice view of the pagoda from across the valley, and comes after about a 1-mile walk up a mostly gentle uphill from parking along 20th Street. The overlook on the south side, which sports a view of the Schuylkill River after a slightly longer and slightly more uphill section from the Clapperthal parking lot, or an unnamed section on the west side that gives a nice view of Reading after a rather steep ascent along the power lines for parking on 9th Street.
Oh, good God, why do I do this to myself?
Regardless of the route or time on trail, you will be treated to all the natural beauty that the mountain has to offer, making good on the legacy intended for you, as a resort for those needing a break from the everyday and a few moments of peace.
Neversink Mountain is perhaps one of my favorite day trips for the area. I love the fact that despite its urban surroundings, you can still find some measure of natural beauty without having to drive all the way up to the mountains. And with the variety of trails and parking areas making it easy to create your own adventure, it's one of the most accessible places in southeast Pennsylvania for anyone looking to take in the beauty of the world around them. That is going to wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. As per the usual, if you have any suggestions of where you'd like to see me go next, feel free to leave them in the comments below. In the meantime, hit that like and subscribe so that you can receive notifications about anything else near Neversink Mountain or all across the state of Pennsylvania itself. But in the meantime, y'all have a good one.